had indicated they were coming.
She said she's on her way.
But we.
All right, you are live, just so you know.
All right, hello, everyone, and welcome to the actual April meeting for racial equity, inclusion, and human rights being held today at May 6th at 5:15. We'll go ahead and get started. We have some new members and returning members, so we will start with introductions. My name is Katie Bryden. I am the chair of the committee, and I will send it over to Leanna.
Hi, Leanna Fellis, and I am the secretary.
I'm Debbie Laurie and I'm the city manager.
Catherine, you're next in our circle.
Catherine Robinson, member and back from extended maternity leave.
Courtney O'Donnell, assistant city manager.
Mark Roth, committee member.
And we'd love to hear who you are.
I'm Emmy Nguyen and I'm the high school representative. And I'm currently a junior at Bangor High School. Nice.
Great, Demi, we're so glad to have you here and present. We have quite a lot going on with our committee. Obviously, we're so happy to have a high school representative here, but we have had some changes within our actual body that we're going to have to discuss coming up in a few minutes. But before I do that, I do want to open it up to general public comment. We give 15 minutes now at the start of every meeting for public comment, obviously relevant to the agenda and the work that we have on the agenda. And we will limit it to 15 minutes and then we may reopen it later on. The committee won't respond at this time, but we will obviously take notes and consider whatever is shared at later meetings. So is there any public comment? Don't want to put you on the spot, Valerie, but
No, I'm
nothing
just here to listen.
okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Without that, we will move on to an update that our vice chair, Melissa Buckles, has actually moved out of the state. So she's no longer, no longer with us. It's way too.
No longer a member.
She's no longer a member. She's always with us and we will miss her deeply and thank her truly for her contributions, not only as the vice chair this year, but also a fantastic member for many years. And she's on to brighter things outside the state and we wish her the best of luck and thank her so much for her work on this committee. It was really spectacular to have her input and insight. Gabrielle, welcome. We just got started. We have our new high school committee member here. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Gabrielle. I'm a member of this committee. I think been here for a while. But yeah, I'm so happy you're here with us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gabrielle. Emmy, I want to give you the chance to introduce yourself.
My name is
Obviously.
Emmy Nguyen, and I'm a junior at Bangor High School.
Exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My question is with 5 voting members and an absent, a vacant position.
Yeah.
We do currently have quorum. So I would like to begin that by obviously, actually, I'm going to wait because I do know that I believe Shane is on his way.
Yeah.
For the additional information on the election of the
Yes.
vice chair. But I will move to approve the minutes that were submitted in the packet, February 25th. Minutes for the February meeting and also the March meeting need approval because we have not had quorum in that amount of time. So again, thank you all for being here this evening to move forward and approve those minutes. They were in the packet. Does anybody have any notes or comments on? I will take those together, both of those meeting minutes. Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
Second,
You made the motion initially.
I need a motion to approve, please.
I move to approve.
Need a second? Second, all right, for Mark. And because Catherine is on Zoom, we will have to do a roll call vote. So I will begin with Leanna. Catherine,
Approve.
great, thank you. Mark,
Approve.
Gabrielle.
Approve.
And I mean, I appreciate your commitment, but you're not a voting member. But thank you for being here. And Katie, I approve. the minutes as well. So great. Now we are all up to speed with that work. Oh, hello, Shane,
Hello.
just in time. Welcome. We have a new member, Shane. We just finished our introductions and approved the minutes. But we right now have our new high school representative.
Hi, nice to meet
It was
you.
nice to meet you too.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Shane, for the minutes and for our new member?
Yes, of course. I'm Shane Boyce. I'm a member of the committee. I don't know what else is there to know about me. That's it. Cool.
And this is Emmy. I won't make you do it a third time.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, great. So Shane, as we were just saying, Melissa has moved out of state and we thank her for everything that she gave to the committee. We are now in the process of electing a new vice chair. So for the members here, I want to obviously open it up. Is there any interest or nominations for the position of vice chair that's now open? And you feel free to nominate yourself as well.
Don't all jump at once.
Now everyone's volunteering.
I will say if no one has an interest in it, I don't mind serving as vice chair again because I have done that. You know, if no one feels comfortable stepping up in that role, but I really think it's important for the future of this committee that we get some more people up in the leadership position so that we can move it beyond those of us when we're finished.
Happy to do it. I know I'm new, but happy to do it if needed.
Wonderful, wonderful. So seeing that
Nominations are closed.
Self-nomination count.
Yes. Seeing that interest, Shane, I agree with you. I don't think it matters in terms of time. I think that this work is really important and just having consistent leadership and commitment to thinking outside the box. You don't have to be here a long time to know how to do that. So, I accept your nomination and I believe that we would need to move to officially nominate Shane as the vice chair of the Racial Equity, Inclusion and Human Rights Advisory Committee. Can I get a motion for his nomination?
I move to nominate him.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, all right, and we will need another roll call vote, and I will begin again with Leanna.
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Shane,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Gabrielle, and Katie's a yes. Unanimously.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Approved.
Congratulations.
Happy to have a new vice chair on this committee. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, we will jump right into our work. Right now, our first thing is events. We are going to keep the 2026 Martin Luther King Jr. Planning Breakfast on here for the rest of the year because working on that together is going to be critical. I had sent an email to our partners at the NAACP. With April break, I think it was just a little bit of a busy time. And I will send a follow-up email to that, but I would like to welcome the idea in future meetings to actually have the new chair come to one of our meetings and talk to us a little bit about this. I know we've had this at past meetings, but as a reminder for Catherine and Emmy, you're new. Our goal this year is to partner with the NAACP and their planning of the Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast. It's historically been held at the University of Maine, but our goal this year is to bring it to Bangor, a wider venue, and really allow opportunity for more, not only more folks to join, but also make it a bigger event. It was historically a really fantastic breakfast with speakers, really good education and opportunity to bring awareness not only to the legacy, obviously, of Dr. King, but all of the work that's been done, in his legacy for the past, what is that, 70 years now. So we will continue to keep this on, but our goal is to actually, because there's new leadership at the NAACP as well, have them come and share with us what their goals are and what they will need to bring that breakfast to Bangor in terms of if it is in a larger spot, what does that look like for us working with the Cross Insurance Center, some of our available venues here in Bangor? What will they need in terms of logistical support, funding, planning, and how can we really be partners in that? For a little overview, I think that our group has such a desire to get involved in helping to plan and invest in great education and events in the city of Bangor, but doing it independently as a volunteer committee has proven to be difficult. And instead of over-promising and under-delivering, we're really working with partners this year to identify who already has a great thing going, or maybe just needs some extra support. And how can we jump in to further support that? So Athena, the new president of the NAACP, has been incredible to work with, very open. Debbie and I met with her, I think, on a couple different occasions, and we look forward to continuing that. So it will stay on the agenda. There won't always be things to add to it, but we're working to avoid this pattern of it being December and saying, oh, next month is Martin Luther King Day. What can we do to, help out and get involved? I do welcome anyone on this committee. If there are other events or education that we can do a better job as, representatives on this committee of either amplifying, supporting, not monetarily always, in terms of volunteer hours or helping to spread awareness or just bringing more attention, helping to sort of cultivate that so things don't feel like they're so siloed. Here, that's the goal of this. So if there's anything that you would like to continue to add under events, in addition to Martin Luther King, I know that that's going to be incredibly helpful. I do, just while we're under events, want to say that, again, with the timing of things, and there's a new group that is leading Pride for June, and there's been a ton of, great work being done by also a volunteer coalition of individuals that are working really hard to put that on. There are some changes in how it will be set up. So there isn't the same number of booths available. In the past, we've had a booth where we've asked city members, for feedback, share that we're here, share that we want to engage with the community because it is such a great community event. There are no booths available currently, but we are on the wait list, so I'll let you know if anything changes
Thank you, Katie.
for that. Yeah.
I dropped the ball on that
Oh.
and I meant to bring it up at previous meetings. But obviously, there's been other things that have kind of taken precedence over the past couple months.
Well, thank you you didn't have to say that, I don't think it's any balls dropped. I know that, like I said, we're all volunteering, we're all doing the best we can, so I appreciate that. Yes, Leanna.
Point of clarification in terms of events, there was a subcommittee associated with events. Are we suspending subcommittees? And we're just trying to keep this as an item on here going forward, or are we using subcommittees?
Nothing?
I feel like we're such a small group, having subcommittees is just unnecessary. Cause it's literally it's the same people who show every month.
I think if we're
We had a
able,
larger group.
yeah, I think that is a great question and that is an important question. And if we move on to our next work session for our ordinance change, and we actually have the number of individuals here to vote, that will hopefully free up a number of positions where we can actually bring more individuals into this space. And then we can revisit. I do not personally formally want to suspend committee work because I think it's important. And I think that if individuals have the bandwidth and the interest to continue that work, then I want it to be there as a space for them to work, because we have put a lot of work into cultivating a cadence and a rhythm for our groups to work in this way. So right now, I think that, again, everyone that are in these committees are currently here. So this has sort of become sub/full committee work. Do you have feelings about, go ahead, Shane.
Just a quick question. I think we talked about this a couple of months ago. If there are people who are not officially on the committee but want to be involved in planning, they can kind of be like ex officio members of those subcommittees, correct?
Uh-huh.
like volunteer members of those committees? Well, I mean, I guess we're all volunteers, right?
But here's the difference is that we've been appointed by the city, council to be in these positions, and that has been a question in the past. Where being able to identify if we as appointed members are able to pull in other members,
Mm,
whether or not we're able to do that, and I'm so sorry, I do not know the answer to that question.
So I would say there's an opportunity without creating sort of a new membership category. Meetings are public, they're open, they're available. We would always encourage somebody who's interested in the community to say, hey, this is a great idea. How can I help? Is there a way for me to get involved? And I think that's really one, a really great role this community can play is uplifting events and opportunities that may engage other folks in the community to participate as well, because the more we work together, the better.
that's great.
I agree with that. Thank you for that.
I have a question. I want to back up to the Martin Luther King
Mhm.
breakfast. This may be premature, but do you know if there's receptivity on the part of the NAACP and the folks to move into the breakfast to Bangor?
Yes,
Oh, there is.
Great
Okay.
question.
Good.
yep. And we actually, not to go backwards, but one of the things we've talked about too is the breakfast. What they were talking about is, the breakfast had been sort of the same format for a long time. And so people would go to the breakfast and then they leave and go about their day. So what opportunities do we have if you relocate to Bangor to build opportunities to do more programming and events? Because obviously, I'm gonna use the library as an example, just because it's a great example. They hold a lot of educational and special events, and is there a way to kind of highlight it?
Mhm. Good.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you for clarifying that. That is a very good question, because I don't want to give the impression that we're appropriating the NAACP Martin Luther King breakfast. That would not be in the best interest of anyone. But I do think, again, that that's where they will need help, right? If we are going to bring it to Bangor and we are going to use a bigger space, how can we exactly make this a bigger event, including, especially since schools are closed that day, can we use the library for, student education, kids events, more of a highlight on Black-owned businesses in the area, take it a little bit further, and working with some of our partners at the chamber, really making those connections. That's what we can promise to right now, because I think that we've been so enthusiastic and excited to plan things, but we do not have the bandwidth. But being able to pull partners in that we know and help facilitate that feels like a reasonable
Sounds good.
mountain to
Yeah, 'cause
summit.
they reached out to us when they brought on their new, they reached out to us, yes, about,
Yeah.
wanting to move to Bangor
Yeah.
and really connect and partner on that.
I appreciate all this information, not having
Right.
been privy to it.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for asking that question. I waffle between the oversharing, things that people already know, and I obviously miss things that are pertinent. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Sure.
All right, any other comments or questions on events? Okay, then I will move forward to a policy and ordinance work. This has been on our docket for a long time. I'm glad that we do have a quorum so that we can move forward. Emmy, and a reminder to Catherine, and obviously for our new member, Emmy, we have an ordinance right now that limits our ability to, address membership that is lacking. So we have 9 positions available, and typically 4 to 5 show up. That doesn't always mean that we have quorum, which means that we can't get any work done, which means that we are constantly stuck in a cycle of waiting. And our ability as appointed members to actually address that membership gap with the city council is challenged. So we have to go back to our ordinance. We have to look at our ordinance and see what can we do to change it to make it a little bit more accessible for folks to either come or recuse themselves, and how might we work with the city to fill vacant positions so that we're not just waiting because people are given, 3-year term limits, we're not, or excuse me, 3-year terms. We're not waiting for 3 years for that spot to open up again.
Come and share.
Courtney, I would love for you to share your screen because we do have some changes that we needed an official vote on. What I would like to go through and do is talk about these, talk about the changes that we have suggested. And if appropriate, correct me if I'm wrong, take them all at once and vote to approve them. Once we, as an advisory committee, have approved these ordinance changes, they will go to GovOps.
So
You would,
it would actually be a
Recommendation.
recommendation, a motion to recommend the changes to council.
Okay,
GovOps.
To, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it will
but
have.
we're just gonna have to too.
Yeah, it will end up on first, because this ordinance change requires 2 readings to 2 separate council meetings. So based on this timing, it looks like if, depending on what the committee does tonight, if recommended to move forward, then it will go on the Monday night's council meeting for first reading and then be referred to GovOps on the 19th and then have second reading and a vote by council on it the 28th.
okay. So full committee does first reading this next Monday.
Full council does
I'm
first
sorry,
reading on
yes.
Monday,
And
and
then
then it goes to
GovOps.
committee and then back to council for a
Okay.
vote. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is helpful. So what we are doing today then is hopefully reconciling a motion to recommend changes to the city council. All right, so let's begin by looking at these changes. We have them in yellow. I do know that we have gone over this as a group, just talked through it. So again, in the essence of time and in the essence of hopefully not being too repetitive, we'll go through these pretty quickly. We obviously made the first change being the city manager or a designee sitting on these committees. As we will be fully having Courtney with us soon, correct? I mean, you're fully here now. It's only half a year. Get to your backside. So they have the ability as city staff to move in and out and supporting
Yeah.
our work at meetings. Similarly, for the superintendent of schools or a designee, there are many positions at the leadership and administration of the school that would be appropriate to stand in and give information and provide feedback. And so we wanted to make that change as well, but it doesn't have to be just those 2 individuals representing their entities. The third change we made is really opening up the student position, making sure that these individuals reside in Bangor, but could be enrolled in a secondary or post-secondary education. Previously, we said that they would be a Bangor high school student, which we're glad you're here and we're glad you're at Bangor, but if we wanted to have either a homeschool student or, an individual that went to Bass, we didn't want to be obviously exclusionary. And that's that language change. And Courtney and Debbie, please jump in if I'm missing something in our overview. And that we do request that a member of Bangor City Council be designated by the council chair to serve as a liaison between the council and committee. Which is really important to us to have representation on this committee from council so that we can make sure we are on the same page. We're working together. Our goal is to support the city council in all of their work and provide recommendations that are just going to make Bangor better and provide a wider lens to the work that they're doing. So we're excited to have that position in there. Again, I thought you were gonna say something. I am gonna go through all of these and then we'll take a vote at the end. So if you do have recommendations or changes to subsections that you want to address now, obviously just interrupt me. All right. Moving on to our officer changes, we did amend this to ensure that we have the selection of a secretary. We never formally identified a secretary to be an elected position, which we now will also have that as an elected position as leadership of the chair and chair as well.
If I may, just before that, in the terms of office, there is some struck language recommended just to kind of clear up because that language is left over from when the committee was formed and it's no longer relevant.
Thank you very much for that. All right, this is
I
where
have
we
a
had a.
question.
Oh, yes, Catherine.
So for 20, for the officers part, it says the committee shall annually elect a chair and a vice chair. Should it say chair, vice chair, and secretary? Or what's, now that,
Yes. Do you see that on the, do you see that on the screen?
Oh, she means right here.
Oh, at the
The
very
tile,
top.
good,
Yeah,
good pick.
she means right here. Yeah, that's
Oh.
nice, that's.
That's a
yeah, good
great
job.
pick.
Thanks. at least I can contribute that way.
Yeah. How often, this is why our work is so important. You can look at something 1,000 times and never see it. Thank you. We will add that change in. And we'll obviously vote pending any changes that we make to this be updated and included. The next piece is our meetings, annual report and quorum. Our original ordinance said that we meet quarterly. We have found that to be not helpful to moving this work along. We don't want, well, the decision was made to not put it in writing that we would meet monthly, because then we would be held to that expectation and life happens. And if we do have to switch things around, like for instance, having this meeting in May instead of April, we do want that flexibility. So we did add more frequent meetings may occur. We do still have the expectation that individuals attend meetings as often as they can. Obviously, you know, we wanted to make it clear that there will be more frequent meetings and that we do have the expectation that individuals will attend. So this piece on attendance underneath cause for removal is our newest and biggest piece of work that we are trying to actualize and approve so that we can actually move forward with, like we said, some of these positions where individuals may no longer be able or interested in serving in those roles, but we do not have any direct action to take in their replacement. So the language here says, and this is what I want us all to understand and agree to, is that we do obviously want to recognize the continuing. I'll just read it out loud so we can all be clear on this. To maintain good standing, regular members of the Advisory Committee on Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights are expected to actively participate in the committee's work through consistent attendance. Recognizing the importance of continuity, members shall adhere to the following attendance guidelines within their 3-year term. Annual attendance. Members shall not be absent for more than 4 regularly scheduled meetings within any 12-month period unless excused under subsection 3, absences. 3-year attendance. Over their 3-year term, members shall attend at least 75% of the regularly scheduled meetings and shall not be absent for more than 3 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings within a 12-month period unless excused under subsection 3, absences. Now we're at absences. Notice of absence. All absences will be excused provided that the committee chair and city manager or designee receive notification of the absence before the scheduled meeting. Unexcused absences are absences without prior notification to both the committee chair and city manager or designee will be considered unexcused. And record keeping, the committee secretary shall maintain a record of all absences. And so the reason that we wanted to put this in writing is, while obviously, like I said before, things happen, life happens, and we are a flexible and understanding committee, we do need a course of action to take for individuals that we have not seen or heard from in a long time. So having an excused absence is completely reasonable. It's just communicating to the leadership of this committee that you will be absent. That's it. So it's not a hard and fast rule that should be a barrier to individuals to joining. It should be flexible and open. What we'll have to determine is, are these numbers of expected attendance, is that fair? Catherine, I see your hand raised.
I think I answered my own question. Oh, here's the lower hand. But what I was thinking was for one, I was getting confused because it said more than 4 regularly scheduled meetings in 12 months, but then for number 2, it said 3. But the difference between number 1 and number 2 is whether or not they're consecutive or not. So I think I answered
Correct.
the question.
Correct. And that is something that we talked about for a long time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense now. I just had to read it a bunch of times.
Okay, and if anything else comes up, obviously, let us know. Leanna,
So we're stating that we're gonna meet quarterly. We're also saying someone can miss 4 meetings a year. So if we only hold 4 meetings, it is entirely possible that someone never attends for a full year.
Right, right. I was just gonna raise that same issue, that it seems to me that there's somewhat of a contradiction between 2343A and, the attendance issue. Um,
I think you can't have it both ways in this situation. Either you do formalize the frequency of the meetings, if you're gonna have something like that in there, or you have to have a more, you strike that completely and stick with the 3. But that's just,
Stick with the 3 consecutive?
and if,
Yeah.
yeah. You're gonna have to use a shorter period of time that they're allowed to miss if we ever get back to that point of having.
But what happens when somebody skips 2, attends 1, skips 2?
Well, I think that's been the point of discussion multiple times, which is what happens in the particular situations.
I mean, if we include, no more than 4. And then, within a year, and then the 3 consecutive in a row, unexcused, I think that's reasonable. But the one thing that I think we could maybe work around in terms of like the quarterly meetings, because we do meet monthly. Like, yeah, we missed the April meeting, but we know why we missed the April meeting. And, that specific reason is not going to be a problem going forward because that issue has been resolved, is my understanding.
Well, and sometimes we miss in the summer. We
Well,
take 1 or 2 off in the
Right.
summer,
So-
recognizing that summer can be short depending on.
right, so to address that, why don't we just change the language? So instead of it being quarterly, we meet 10 times a year. At least. 10
So,
times a year.
may I just make a suggestion?
Yeah,
So,
I know this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I need an ordinance,
I,
that makes sense to me, but.
I would be concerned, like, the 10 times is buttoning you in, cause if you miss that 10th, then you're technically in violation of the ordinance.
Okay, nice.
But the reason this was originally brought up, it sounds like, is that number 1 says shall not be absent for more than 4 regularly scheduled meetings, and the idea is if you only have 4, then like you could miss all of them and still be, so why not just lower that number to 3?
I would argue if you're going to keep number 1 as that language, you'd have to lower it down to 2. Because at that point, you're gonna be in a situation where someone could potentially miss half a year's worth of meetings.
But if you can meet more than quarterly, and it seems unlikely you're never gonna actually meet quarterly, isn't that a non-issue?
I don't know what's the point of having it in there.
I feel like the point of having it
Flexibility.
in there is so that we do not fall out of compliance with the ordinance. And we give ourselves flexibility and honesty with what the work that we're doing.
What is the objection to saying that the committee shall meet monthly?
To be perfectly honest, a lot of people travel in the summer and it's been very difficult to have a quorum worth meeting, like even 1 or 2 members together in the same place in July. And that's almost always been historically, at least my experience, has been that we've not had a July meeting for that reason. And I understand that you are trying to give us flexibility,
Yeah.
with the quarterly.
What about 6 meetings a year? I mean, that gives us even more flexibility. It's more than quarterly. It's not as high as 9 or 10 meetings a year, because let's say, it falls around. Like this past year, our meeting fell on Thanksgiving week, so we skipped it. And then Christmas was the same way. So, and like we rescheduled it, but, what if we couldn't reschedule? So what if we just lowered it down to 6? That's every 2 months. That's pretty reasonable. I feel like we've always had more meetings than 6, as somebody who's like, I think I'm in my 3rd year here, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Yeah.
might work, cause that still gives you flexibility.
Yeah.
but a higher expectation than 4, so, yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to, you know, things that we've talked about over time is, things that are shared with people when they interview for it, you know, making sure they understand the importance of attending these meetings, the reason why we don't meet just quarterly, there's a reason why we meet monthly, you know, the work that we want to do and we want to attend to and the things that arise that come up. And, you know, I've made my feelings known about the use of 3 or 4 absences, you know, it's not meant to be super strict on people, but the flip side to that is habit has formed with people not attending, not showing up, not communicating. And if we, you know, if we keep it high, then someone might think, I've got 3. There's 3 I can get away with not attending. And that's not helpful. That's not conducive to the work. It's not, doesn't help us be unified in the work that we're trying to do. So I will always advocate on the lower side of things, but I understand needing to have that flexibility for the work that we're doing.
Mhm.
And I think like the 6, I mean, missing 3 meetings, that's half. That's a fail if you're in
That's
school.
significant, yeah.
That's a fail. So I think that's reasonable.
If we were to adopt that, 6 meetings, would we then say that the committee shall meet 6 times, but more frequently?
I think you should
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
maintain that language, I would
So
agree.
it would be here, the committee shall meet at least 6 times a year,
Yeah.
sounds like, but more frequent meetings may occur.
That gives us flexibility for summer and holidays.
Yeah.
Cause we all need to get away and reset sometimes.
At least 6 times per year.
Yes.
Any thoughts? Feedback? Feel free to jump in. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if anything seems like it needs attention, please feel free. Yes.
While we're on this page, can we just go, it's not highlighted, but I want to go to B. It's impossible prior to December 31st to prepare a report for the preceding year. I would like to suggest that we change that December 31st date to like February 1st
Oh, yeah. That way you're doing it in January for the year
for the
before.
That
preceding
makes
year.
much more sense.
Correct. I look,
I do love my Christmas writing, but I suppose.
depending on where it falls,
Yeah.
you know, our last meeting of December may be December 28th, and it doesn't give you a chance.
Yeah.
This gives you your January meeting to review your annual report,
Right.
You said just February 1st?
February 1st.
Yeah, that way it gives you January to do
Correct.
it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thoughts or feedback? All right. Great. Now, notice and cause for removal. We have nothing this.
Yeah, and this was all reviewed and proposed by our legal staff, under statute to ensure that there is
Due process.
due process available to anybody who feels they have
Yes. Yeah.
a reason why for the absences that hasn't been taken into consideration before the removal.
So this is language that was crafted by legal.
You bet. And Courtney, we're kind of, we're sometimes known as the third wheel of legal.
HR supposed to. All right, so notice and cause for removal. This says that the violation warning notice, if a member is absent from 3 regularly scheduled or 2 consecutive regularly scheduled meetings within that 12-month period, unless excused, the secretary shall then alert the city clerk, who shall provide written notification to the member outlining the attendance policy and the potential consequences of further absences. 2, hearing notification. In the event a member fails to attend meetings as established in section 2344, subsection A, the committee secretary shall notify the city clerk of meeting dates missed. The city clerk shall notify the member via certified mail of their perceived violation and a hearing date no sooner than 14 days. Hearing and decision. The personnel committee shall hold a hearing with the member and determine if A, an attendance violation has occurred, and B, whether or not to remove the member. Decision to remove members for cause shall require an order on the following council agenda. So those are the steps that will happen. should someone miss a number of meetings without letting us know.
Who's the personnel committee? Is that us?
That's council.
Yeah.
It's not
yeah,
the
that's-
city
that's
council.
the City council committee.
That's the people who interviewed you to join the committee.
Okay. And then, what if just I'm just curious, not like I think this is, gonna happen to any of us, but, if the person doesn't show up for the hearing within 14 days, do they just then remove the person or do they have to like, I'm just curious what they do.
Typically with due process, the notice would be sent out with like an opportunity to reschedule, like it would be, the date would be set and with one opportunity oftentimes to reschedule. If the council were never to hear from the individual, then they would still hold that hearing and make a decision based on the available information.
Okay, do you think that number 3 outlines that clearly?
Yes, because the hearing, I guess you mean
She's
because it
saying
says
that
shall hold a hearing with the member.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe that should be amended slightly to indicate,
And just take with the member out.
for that
That
flexibility,
they-
because you're right, they should be able to move forward with that hearing. Especially if the person just never responded. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
catch, Kath.
Thanks.
He's fresh.
Under section 1, outlining the attendance policy and the potential consequences of further absence. What are the potential consequences other than removal?
That pretty much is.
That is it.
Yeah,
That's it? And maybe that should be
Outlining the-
potential consequence with no S.
Sure.
In order for that to be consistent with section 3.
So that leaves another question where we have so many members that like, I've not missed a lot of meetings, but like when I look at, when I see new faces, I'm like, oh, you have a new member? Oh, wait a second. No, I just haven't seen you in months. Is this gonna be retroactive? Or?
There's no way to do that.
Okay,
But it is an opportunity to reach out and say, hey, we've done this. We realize you haven't been here. If you, just so you know it's coming, if it's not fitting in with your schedule and your life, if you could just, let us know, that's fine. I think
Yeah.
lots of times people are really well intentioned and then
Yeah,
yeah,
are uncomfortable saying, geez, I just can't make that a priority right now for one reason or another. And it shouldn't be viewed that way and we want them.
yeah, I think that the main thing is it just gives us a course of action to take in opening those lines of communication, which
okay,
have been unable to be opened up until this point.
yeah.
Yes.
With that being said, people have applied and gone through an interview process. Is the personnel committee going to reach back out to people who have applied previously, who said, no, our committee is full, no? And are they gonna go back to them and say, hey, a position's opened up, are you interested? Or do they have to re-interview, do they have to re-post applications?
Yeah, in my opinion, how they reappoint would follow the same process as any other committee.
Correct.
Yeah, that's why this does not speak to that actually, because it just reverts to the established process that the personnel committee uses to appoint members. And that may include some of that. I'm not entirely sure, I'll admit. But its notice is publicized, so not to say that, we can do outreach, especially if there was an interest. But it would follow the established process.
Yeah. Can I ask a question just in that vein with our current vacant position? It's just a matter of reminding, citizens of Bangor that there is an open position now and that's available. So that's something that we could all promote, in meeting with other individuals, making it known that we do have a vacant position and that applications are open on a rolling basis. We're not gonna have to wait until the end of the year.
Yes, and I will, so last week they appointed 9 citizen appointed committee, commission and board members. So they do this on a rolling basis.
Great.
So there is always a link available on our website where folks can complete applications and see the vacancies. So as the city clerk compiles them, we try to get them together in at least a decent sized batch. To bring the committee in, because obviously it's a time commitment,
Mhm.
so.
When was the resignation of Melissa submitted?
Last Friday, did I get it?
So it was recent. Okay.
Yeah.
Very recent.
Yeah, I think it came
Yeah.
last Friday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, the end of last week, so.
Yeah. Right.
We are so sad, I know. All right, any other questions or, errors, Catherine?
I know.
That we might need, for this, that was the last change in the current ordinance. I would like to recommend pending these changes are made, that we move, to recommend these changes to council. Is it safe to say that we would make these updates this evening?
Yes.
Return it, that will be on the council's agenda for Monday, so we would be able to review it, make sure that it looks good.
Yep, so I would say that the edits that we're going to make are under 23.4.2, where we're going to update the title to reflect elected chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
Yep.
Under 23-4.3, the update we're gonna make is the committee shall meet at least 6 times per year, but more frequent meetings may occur.
Correct.
And under 23-43B, prior to February 1st is the only change I had noted in there. And then 23-44B, 1, we're gonna remove the S from consequences. And under B3, we're gonna remove the words with the member from following shall hold a hearing.
Thank
And we
you.
will certainly provide the draft back and just ask that if you note anything to let us know. But again, because it's on email, you should just be replying back to us, because we don't want to create an unintentional public meeting by discussing the ordinance with the changes, correct?
Correct, thank you. Were there any note, comment changes not, reviewed by city manager Lori? All right, well, with that said, pending these changes, I, would like to receive a motion from one of you to recommend the changes to council.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second. All right, we will do a roll vote. I will start with, yeah,
Yes.
Catherine,
Approve, yes.
Yes.
Shane,
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Gabrielle, Katie, yes. Wonderful. Great work, team. And so we will again receive that review prior to the meeting on Monday. Sure you
And
get any feedback to the city manager, or assistant city manager, by when do you send the?
It has to be, in the packet that goes on Friday, so I'll need it, by, yeah, Thursday.
noon Thursday would be good.
Yeah,
Noon
yeah,
Thursday.
we'll try to get it as quickly as possible
Alright.
tomorrow.
And just for clarification, so this would be the opportunity, we would need to schedule a special gov ops on May 19th.
Yeah,
And so that would be the place for the committee member to, kind of be there to discuss this item with the gov ops committee. And then at the council meeting on the 28th, in case there are questions, typically our first reading is for perfunctory purposes. It's not so if you're making your calendar,
May 19th and May 28th.
right, and May 28th may be a problem for you.
Yeah.
Okay, just throwing that out there.
You have those all in your head? You're good.
I've lived with the calendar a long time.
Hey, you are good. All right. Moving on to other business, in the essence of time, I do want to start with the order of naming the section of trail from Sylvan Road to Stillwater Ave. This was also included in our packet today, so if you didn't have the chance to read it, just, well, would you, I could do a review, but would you like to do everything?
Whichever you'd like.
I would like you, city manager
Okay.
Lori, please do
All
a
right.
review of this update.
So, many of you may know, the city had named what was previously known as Second Street Park, Talbot Park in honor of Gerald Talbot. And with the recent changes where the Y is gonna be situating and taking over a significant portion of that property, we thought it was appropriate to ensure that the Talbot name continues to be recognized and garnered within our community. So we were looking for another public improvement, public structure, public space to be able to recognize Mr. Talbot. So we actually identified, I don't know, do any of you, have you ever heard of Trail 5, any of you?
I haven't heard it called that.
All right, so it's been unofficially called Trail 5, and that was actually, I think, the funding designation from the state. So we were looking at, we're like, oh, this would be an opportunity. So as we looked at our assets and how they're currently named and what they're reflective of, we thought this was a good opportunity. I'd also like to point out that it actually connects the Eastern Maine Community College campus with Stillwater Avenue. So connecting back to education, it was also one of the last connector pieces to create a loop of trails that starts at Cascade Park and goes through Dorothea Dix and travels across Stillwater where you can connect to,
Sylvan.
no, it's on the Stillwater side. I'm not gonna get it, but anyway, it connects, you have better access to connect to the next trail up. So we thought, Talbot Trail had a nice ring to it. It's been known as Trail, and be able to continue to honor and recognize, all of the great work that Harold Talbot has done, not only in our community, but on the state and frankly, what he's done with his life and efforts over the years. So this was, reviewed. So we also have a Parks, Recreation and Advisory Committee. Harbor Advisory Committee, so they reviewed this, it comes to you. You may remember late last year, we revised the naming policy for city-owned properties. And I totally faced that it needed to come to this committee, so it was fortuitous that we were meeting tonight. And just wanted to get some feedback on the committee for this recognition.
Thank you very much. I would love to hear from the committee, feedback, thoughts, questions, concerns.
I think it's a great idea.
I agree.
Yeah, I was really sad, honestly. Like, I am really glad that the Y is going to be able to expand eventually whenever they start that project and complete their fundraising, however long it takes, thanks to inflation. But, you know, I was sad that it was taking up so much of what was formerly a public space. Because we need those, especially free and accessible ones where a YMCA is great. It's great having those, but it's not always accessible to everybody. So having this, I think, is really important just to continue that name. So yeah, thank you for involving us in that.
I'm assuming, but I shouldn't, has anyone connected with any of the family?
I did reach out to the family and gave them a synopsis of what we'd like to do. They said they'd chat with their father. I followed back up. I'm going with no news is good news. So,
I definitely think it's important to have.
Yep.
Their name, having
Correct.
their input's very important.
Very.
and we did reach out to them as soon as they advised, as soon as the Parks, Recreation and Harbor Advisory Committee came to this.
I'm not sure that I necessarily would feel comfortable doing anything without knowing what they feel on all of this.
That's a good point. I also have to ask, how many other trails that are numbered do we have?
We don't have any other trails that are
Oh,
numbered.
okay.
Like I said, it was, I don't know how it got that way. I think it got a project name Trail 5 for some reason, and it's just stuck.
Okay. Are the other trails named after like Wabanaki place names or?
I don't, so I believe they call it, I think they call it the Saxel Park version because a great portion of that trail runs through Saxel Park.
Okay,
And then the bottom part is referred to as Cascade Park Trail because it runs through Cascade Park.
gotcha.
So they're pretty much tied to the places that they're in.
Okay,
But we have, for example, a number of our forests. You know, we have
Mhm.
Prentice Woods, Brown Woods. I can't tell you why those were named that.
I was gonna say those might be opportunities.
I can't tell you why those were named that. I
Yeah,
can tell you our city
Talbot's great.
forest is the Roland Perry City Forest.
Yeah.
And it was the long-term forester that we had that made that come to fruition. So that was why they chose to name
And that
that
makes
in his
sense.
honor.
And certainly if the family speaks up in favor of this, you know,
Yep.
my hope is that whatever happens, we would do a similar celebration like we did with the renaming of it before. I mean, we made rightfully
An event.
so, an acknowledgement and a celebration of that, you know, and if they're in favor, I hope we would be doing something similar.
And I would just ask that the committee, pending any concerns by the family, would make a recommendation that you do or don't
Okay,
support this.
are there any other thoughts or feedback?
I think, when I first started graduate school here back in 1967, I think Gerald Talbot was just starting his political career. And I
Wow.
remember that those of us who were in school together, felt that it was such a positive,
Mm-hmm.
thing for the state of Maine to have an African American in the legislature.
Yeah.
And we see what his history
His
is.
legacy, right?
His legacy.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. My only thought with this, and this is what I'm interested in waiting to hear feedback from the family, is that it feels as though we're going from downtown Bangor and a huge swath of beautiful accessible land to what I feel like is the side of the highway.
Sure,
And
so,
that feels very
Right.
othering, and that concerns me.
so let me share with you, it will still be, so the Y is not taking the entirety of the playground. So the playground area will remain where, you know, where the plaque is that
Yeah.
recognizes Mr. Talbot. That area will still remain accessible to the public and will continue to be maintained. In addition, the Y has committed to referring, the rest of the park space is going to be green open space for fields and walking paths
And
and
everyone
things
can
like
still
that.
use it the same.
Exactly.
So there
Makes
is gonna
sense.
be, pardon me, so that public can access it, but it'll also still be referred to as Talbot Fields. That is recognized in the area in which he grew up, which is how the importance came. And the city has maintained, committed to, it remains Talbot Park, and it will still be a public park on a smaller scale.
Yeah, thank you for that. My question is. I think that obviously recognizing, or and our state a better place is really important, and I know that reviewing those names and working to make it more, acknowledge more of the individuals that have been here and have done incredible work for this. So even if we were to say, you know, pending the feedback of the Talbot family, in agreement with this, we would recommend, that name change to the city council. Would there be opportunities in the future for us to also, I'm not saying that like, we'll give you that, we'll give you Sylvan Road until we find something better. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, would there be opportunities to spend more time actually working with the Bangor Historical Society, like we talked about, bringing in some partners and doing some of this research and understanding.
So I certainly think it falls within the committee's purview to review place names with the aid of Bangor Historical Society to ensure that place names are appropriate and reflective of, you know, what we've learned since many place names were given.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. So with that said, pending the,
Or provided no, how about provided no,
provided no
provided no concerns from the
from the
family.
family.
Correct.
Right. So provided that we do not hear from the Talbot family, about this name change not happening to Trail 5, does the committee recommend, this change to city council? We would need a, motion to move for a vote on this.
I make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Wonderful. Votes from Leanna,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
thank you. Shane,
Yes.
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Gabrielle. Katie, yes. All right, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. I do want to be mindful, and I don't want us to get too close to the timing of the planning board, would it be possible to move interpretation assistance to, the later in May meeting? Because I would love an update from the city manager, to talk about some of the things happening in our city, that, you know, we're all aware of and have some questions on.
Okay. So manager updates, I'm assuming is where
Yes,
you'd like to
please, thank
be.
you, sorry, thank you.
So, at our last city council meeting, the city council did clarify that Robert's Rules of Order do not apply to advisory committees. So we are able to continue in the methods and same ways that we have been, historically. So they did clarify that it was for all committees. The vast majority of citizen appointed committees, commissions and boards are advisory in nature. There are only, I think, 3 or 4 that actually have, been delegated, as delegated decision-making authority. And those groups will still follow Robert's rules. So
Thank you.
that did pass last week.
May I ask a clarifying question? So that, based on how we've been operating, where we
Yes.
continue to have our conversations.
Yeah.
That will not, so
Yeah.
basically,
Correct.
this action just makes it so that we can keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. And it does clarify for the portion, for example, that if you don't have a quorum, you're still allowed, it's a publicly noticed meeting, you're still allowed to discuss, you just can't take action. Which is the process that we have been following.
Wonderful, thank
Yeah.
you.
We are currently working with Wabanaki Public Health, in a couple of ways. So Wabanaki Public Health is actually going to be, doing the syringe collection within the community. So they are beginning with the large community syringe collection boxes that we have throughout. And we'll be rolling out soon the ability for people to report, so that we can address improperly disposed of syringes that people may come across in our community. On a somewhat related note, Wabanaki Public Health is the only certified syringe service provider in the city of Bangor. And with the closure of Heal, they were really filling a void, that was putting a strain on the infrastructure that they had. So they actually relocated to the space that Heal had previously occupied. I'm gonna get the cross streets wrong. It's on Hancock and it's not Boyd, it's the next one over. Anyway, so they're in the, on Hancock Street is their address, in the space previously occupied by Heal. They began operating in that space yesterday. So they are pretty excited to, transition to a bigger space to be able to accommodate, the additional clients and clients that they have. I will also share that with that space, they have an opportunity to work with other partners to kind of create a one-stop shop. So our public health folks are looking at how we might be able to support with some public health nursing time, perhaps space for outreach, and there may be other community partners stepping in. The goal is if someone is walking through the door and needs access to other resources, they should know that on Tuesdays it's this, on Wednesdays it's that, and there's a predictability. So we're really pretty excited about that opportunity. I think many of you know at this point, that Catholic Charities of Maine has closed, the local office here, which is one of the reasons Melissa has obviously gone to another future that we're very happy for. Clearly the change in federal priorities, and the cessation of immigration into the country has impacted their operations. So they closed that office, but the office remains available in Southern Maine, to support new Mainers. So.
May I ask a question just about, in terms of the resources that Catholic Charities did provide? Will individuals, what's available in the area that they can still access? Are there resources in the area they can access?
So I believe if they, coming through the federal process for relocation and settlement, the benefits that are associated with an individual who came through that program remain. I think the issue becomes is they don't have that person,
Reading them.
locally. But I would say that I believe they still have access to resources through the Southern Maine office. And clearly we have the Maine Multicultural Center here locally, who is likely filling a lot of those gaps, because there were a lot of warm handoffs.
Yeah. I also think there's other organizations that they've partnered with. I know like
Right.
Literacy Volunteers of Maine is
Right,
working
yeah.
closely with that population and whatnot, so. Yeah,
Yeah, I know there are a lot of great individuals doing work now. It's just more work with less. Unfortunate.
So while we're on the topic of immigration,
Yeah.
you must have a question about 287G agreements or ICE activities or things like that. Just a guess.
But if you want Mark view.
I would love an update about, with the recent activity, obviously the Bangor Daily News, the
Yeah.
updates that we've all been
Yeah.
reading about with, purported ICE,
Right.
action. What can you tell us about that?
So, not a whole lot.
Mhm.
Obviously, there are federal law enforcement agencies. They are following the directive and the protocol established by the federal administration.
Mhm.
And the federal, based on what I've read in the BDN, they had a concerted 10-day effort to identify individuals that they felt, their immigration status should be addressed. The city of Bangor has no role in that.
Mhm.
We have no idea they're doing it. It is a federal agency engaged in federal enforcement activities. We have no role. No different than the Bangor City Council is the one who determines how the Bangor Police Department is gonna act. They set the priorities.
Right.
Our police department is a reflection of our community. Federal enforcement agencies are a reflection of their leadership.
Mhm.
So I will say, for example, we often have been asked, well, don't you know? Well, no, we don't know.
Right.
So we don't have any advanced knowledge. We don't have any involvement. I will say that our own police department has really good relationships with any number of federal law enforcement agencies.
Mhm.
It's not unusual for us to deal with the FBI, the Secret Service, and divisions of Homeland Security, including ICE. I'm gonna tell you that we do the most work probably with Homeland Securities based on internet crimes. And so we have a good working relationship, but the priority of the federal government is not the priority of the Bangor Police Department.
Mhm.
Earlier this year, there was a lot about these 287G agreements that came out.
Right.
So 287G agreements have been in existence for 30 years.
Mhm.
We have never signed on to a
Mhm.
287G agreement. I don't anticipate we would ever sign on to a 287G agreement. And what that agreement allows is it allows a non-federal law enforcement agency to enforce certain federal laws.
Mhm.
Our police department is busy enough. There's federal law enforcement for those purposes, and we're not gonna step into those shoes. So there's a lot, I think early on, maybe it was February or so, I'm betting every non-federal law enforcement agency received the same letter saying,
Right.
come, sign
Right.
on.
Yeah, we're seeing that
But again,
in a lot of entities.
that opportunity has existed for 30 years. It was 1996 when 287G agreements were instituted.
Mhm.
So,
Irrespective of
yeah,
what some of us may think about
yeah,
the aggressive behavior of ICE. If we think about Maine itself, it's going to be really a very difficult time for positions to be filled.
oh, yeah,
In Bar Harbor, for example,
Yeah.
even before this happened,
correct,
there was a shortage.
correct.
And I don't think that Maine is unique, but
Nope.
I know that in our own backyard,
Mhm.
that's gonna be a real problem.
When the entire state sits within the jurisdiction of Border Patrol. Cause the 100-mile
Because
radius
of
from
where
the
we
border.
are,
Yeah.
correct, yeah. So what I hope people know is that the Bangor Police Department and the city of Bangor is committed to its resolution. We are a welcoming city. We want everybody to feel welcome. We will not step into the shoes of the federal government. We will continue to be reflective of our community.
Thank you. My question is, has there been, any thought or feedback from the council as to, well, I know this isn't anything that, you know, has ever been done before and has not, you know, ever had an intention of being done, for the, you know, legislation and invitation that has existed for decades. We are in unprecedented times, and it is, I know that it's a risky move to ask the city council to demonstrate loudly and clearly that there will be no partnership with federal agents in this work. Is that something that the city council could even do, given that it falls under the police department? How?
So they're gonna have a public meeting on that, and that we're gonna schedule that for Monday, because that question has come up. And I will also share with you that, we have legislative representatives who have submitted bills, for consideration in Augusta, and frankly, let Augusta do it. Have Augusta stand up and say the same thing.
But it is
Um,
easier to get things passed at a municipal level than it is at the state level.
Understood.
And we can also, we could set the example for
Right.
other communities around the state by doing something.
No, and I
Be
would,
leaders.
no, I get that, and I will always say to you, there's always also, we are required under our federal grants to follow federal law. And whatever the provisions are that come into those grants, so we will always do what's in the best interest and reflective of our community. But we also have to be mindful that we have to follow those requirements, whatever they may be. I can tell you, so for example, this federal administration clearly has different priorities that have been held in the past, and that's fine. So one of our more recent, grant, renewals that I got, was that I signed. And it is a grant that provides rental assistance, so it's just a housing voucher. The grant made references to certain reassurances that those funds were not used, based on, for particular gender ideology, elective abortions, and related to immigration. There was an immigration provision, and those were new reassurances that are showing up in our grants
Right.
because the funds are federal. And the federal government gets to determine the assurances that you're gonna comply with if you're gonna accept those monies.
Mm-hmm,
The monies are being used for rental vouchers.
mm-hmm.
It has no standing.
No, I understand, right?
I'm just showing that as an
Seeing the same
example.
thing in the schools, right?
Correct.
In determining
Correct.
what the.
So is the school committee gonna do that?
No. Right, but I mean, that's.
Understood, you don't have a police department. I get that, but.
Well, I mean, I do feel like that. We also have the great luxury in the school department of having Augusta, the DOE.
Correct.
say-
DOE is all
will
over you.
Say,
Correct.
we're not doing this, we're
Correct.
not signing this, which obviously protects, you know, individual municipalities and is
Correct.
wonderful, but I do feel strongly that, you know,
I know.
we all care and we all want to do what's best for everyone
Correct.
without feeling,
You shouldn't feel threatened to say what you feel.
yeah, right, right.
I get that.
Yes, Shane.
This is kind of related. I'm just curious if you've heard anything about an increase in criminal activity or odd occurrences in the city of Bangor. So for example, I was walking through downtown Bangor over the weekend and noticed that the window at Five Star Clippers had been smashed.
Oh my God.
Which is a black-owned business.
Yeah.
And I stopped by and I poked my head in and I said, hey, what happened to your window? And the owner was there and he said, I have no idea. I came in this morning and it was like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, with people finding Easter eggs with, you know,
Yeah.
inappropriate things in them. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm just like prone to see it because I think about it a lot, but like
Yep.
in a parking lot the other day, I found a business card for the Proud Boys. That was just like laying on the ground. And
Yeah.
so like people are seeing these things and people have
Right.
asked me if I've seen them too. So I know that other people are concerned about it. So just curious if there's kind of any conversation at the city level about all of that.
We have not seen that particular kind of an uptick. We did see, I think, Gabrielle, right? last fall. Remember, we started seeing some of
Yeah.
those
Oh,
road
and
signs
it's
that
not
were showing
stopped.
up.
It's not stopped.
So we are seeing the
Yeah.
flyers now.
Mhm.
And when we see the flyers, we remove the flyers.
Yes, yeah, someone, I live in the Fairmount neighborhood and someone found
Yep.
one in their yard.
Yep,
Yep. And so I think people are just really feeling like, oh, wow, there's a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff floating around out there right now. And no one can really pin down, well, I mean, some of the flyers have a name of an organization on it, and it's
but
free
there's not a
speech.
connection.
but-
Correct.
Right. So I think
Locally.
there's just some,
Yeah.
some concern there
Yep.
that seems to be on the rise in the city.
I just wanna go back and clarify, you're saying, city council's holding a meeting on May 12th and they're holding,
Yeah, I haven't scheduled it yet, but yes,
Okay.
they're gonna do a workshop to have a conversation.
thank you.
Because they did
And-
have similar public concerns,
Right.
so they wanted the opportunity to have that full discussion amongst themselves. Yeah.
And to be clear, that's like a meeting workshop, not an
Correct.
executive decision, right? Okay.
Correct, it's just a workshop, so for folks who, it's an odd distinction, I know. But the city council often is dealing in public meetings, and they have limited opportunity to have a discussion
Right,
amongst
right.
themselves. So this is an opportunity for them to discuss amongst themselves and determine and provide direction that they want, to us.
But that'll still be.
It's still
posted
public and all of that, oh
Right.
gosh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, and again, this is why I'm so excited that our ordinance change, that we can have a liaison where we could ask directly, like, is this where conversations will happen about what can be done publicly to assure the citizens of
So we're
Bangor?
gonna lay out all of the options for them, and they can talk through them and decide what if any action they'd like to take. I'm sure they're gonna take some action, I just can't sit here today and tell you what it is.
As an advisory committee that works in this space, would it be appropriate to provide a recommendation to the city council? Would it be appropriate to do that before the May 12th workshop, or based on what is determined in that workshop?
I would say
review?
let them have a conversation to see where they land based on that. We've had a lot of input from citizens.
Right,
As individuals, if you feel passionate, you should share with your elected officials,
mhm. Yes.
you know?
Could we ask that they come to us if they decide to proceed with something?
Sure, I mean, I will get that direction Monday night, and we can certainly throw that out there as another layer of consideration, yeah.
It's a public meeting, so it's gonna be
Oh, gotcha.
aired, which means I think probably the best recommendation we can make right now is that we all watch it,
Correct.
right? And form our own thoughts and, you know.
And my understanding, again, forgive me if this is incorrect, but a public meeting is not, is there that space for public comment, or? this
At
is
the
just a
workshop, At the workshop, we're
But
just
then
gonna
when it
start
comes
and
to a
have,
council meeting,
where
okay.
do you wanna go?
Okay,
It's hard if you have the whole universe.
no, I believe me, I totally understand the value of a workshop and the
So-
need for that committee time to
Correct.
address.
So the public can attend, but no public comment.
Correct, we're not taking public comment at
Okay.
that point. And I'm not saying that there may not be public comment at the city council meeting, because obviously we offer an opportunity for public comment.
Yep,
We had a number of folks who showed up last week, but we had talked about it. And manager updates, I had provided an update, and they said, well, let's bring this back so we can talk about it.
that's great, yeah, because I
Yeah.
think we've all been watching, we've all been hearing, we understand what the public comment is. We've likely all written emails if we haven't shown up, so just being mindful of the ways that we as an advisory committee together, not directly as public citizens, but what we can do as an advisory committee.
But I do
to-
like the thought of whatever action is to have it come back.
I would love to be able to help provide,
Yep.
feedback on what that action might be. And yeah, I think that it, like I said, most likely makes sense to do that after they have made a decision.
Or recommend, it's not a decision. They'll be providing direction. They haven't had a conversation as a body yet,
Right,
Right.
right. And then we will provide a recommendation
and you can
based
provide
on that
feedback
feedback.
and, yeah.
Questions? All right, then, looking at, is there any other business, any questions anyone had that they would like to bring up?
I was just curious what the state legislation. is.
Oh, just to tell you, wow. They're
Wow.
operating at a very frenetic pace right now. Initially, the party leaders had requested that everything be voted out of committee, by May 9th. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. They had a standing rule where they wouldn't schedule, once they printed a bill, they'd wait 2 weeks before they were scheduling public hearings. That's out the window. They are now scheduling public hearings before the bills are even printed. So there's a really frenetic pace in Augusta, which makes it really difficult to keep track of what's going on. I do believe they are still continuing to try to work on a part 2 budget for any potential additional funds. I don't believe there's gonna be much additional funding or what's it called, money on the appropriations table. So I don't know what the likelihood is of the enactment of any bill that has a fiscal note attached to it. If there's dollars attached, I'm not sure, that there's gonna be much that gets enacted in that way, but stay tuned.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
hopefully
for
we
that
know
update.
more. And I would just say to you all that I think it's really important. One of the things we can all do is keep an eye on state and federal legislation. And
Absolutely.
kind of say, hey, did you see this? Did you know about this? In these times, I think the more eyes we have looking for things, the better we are.
I fully agree with that, which is why I would love to keep that under manager updates.
Yeah.
Maybe not even if it's just under other business, a
Yeah.
place for us to evaluate what we've seen come through, what's happening, so that we can talk about it and make sure that.
And I think it's
we're-
gonna be important that there's that mechanism by which we can report back through, because as I said, we are beginning to see changes in our grant agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
gonna,
concerning.
but again, it's specific to the use of funds, which is, okay, we don't use the funds for that. Thank you.
Up to this point, we
Correct.
just have to make sure that, yeah,
Correct.
the reason we should have all eyes on it. All right, then, no other business, no other comments? All right.
Wait,
with-
I actually do
oh,
have
yes.
something real quick. I know you're leaving us soon.
am.
Have they found a suitable replacement that's
I-
going to fill your very big shoes?
I believe they are working through that process.
Oh, boy.
Yes. Yes, but in case you're interested, after tonight, 17 more working days.
Are we gonna have you for another?
The next meeting is the 27th. She's still here.
All right.
She's like, no.
Fine.
She
I
doesn't
know.
scratch that off her calendar. has she?
Yeah.
Yep. So 33 years.
Ah, yeah, that is a long time.
Mhm.
Now it's 17 days.
Send off party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like I really only work, like we only work Monday through Friday, 17 days.
So-
On the holiday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gotta give you
Just
the
to follow up
hours.
on this, where is that search exactly?
The council is working through that. They've conducted interviews and they're working through finalizing what their next steps will be.
Not that I'm pushing you out, but you also made it known how many days we have left.
17.
Wonderful. Well, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, Leanna,
Yes.
Catherine? I need your vote to adjourn, please. But
Yes,
also, Jake.
there's a baby screaming.
Bye, Catherine, thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Gabrielle? Katie, yes.